You were watching the News Hour first.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news coming in at this moment. Just a short while ago, Aam Aadmi Party MLA Amanatullah Khan has been arrested by the Anti-Corruption Bureau. There were raids that were going on at Amanatullah Khan's residence, as well as few of his associates. There have been some recoveries of cash which has been said to be unaccounted, and some unaccounted weapons as well. That is the latest that we are getting. Let me go across to our reporters on the ground. Bhavtosh Singh, also Mayank joining me on the ground. Bhavtosh, to you first. These raids this morning following and followed by the arrest of Amanatullah Khan, is it based on the facts of a case from 2021?
This is based on a case in which the complaint was given by the Lieutenant Governor, after which the anti-corruption branch had registered the case. And the case not only deals with the irregular appointments of in Waqf Board, but also about misappropriation of funds. Now, earlier also summons were issued to Amanatullah Khan. He did not, in fact, satisfy the replies that were given, and a fresh summons was issued yesterday. But what happened in Okhla and at the other adjoining area was something that baffled ACB officials. Large amount of cash was seized at least in 2 locations, one of them belonging to an AAP worker. Around 12 lakh rupees cash and a weapon was seized from his residence. Total cash that has been seized is around 24 lakh rupees, and 2 weapons have been seized. And the ACB officials also have said that they have also found property papers that could be around anywhere between 80 crores to 100 crores. And they have said that they will soon be sharing their findings with federal probe agencies.
Well, Mayank also joining me right from outside the Anti-Corruption Bureau office in New Delhi. Mayank, what are the details and what are officials telling you at this point about the reasons for the arrest of Amanatullah Khan?
Well, ma'am, Amanatullah Khan, the much talked about the MLA of Aam Aadmi Party, has been arrested, and he has been kept at the 4th floor of this ACB headquarter here at the civil lines, just few kilometers away from the residence of Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. What should be pointed here is that this arrest is made after 6 hours of questioning, where Amanatullah Khan and his 3 associates were confronted with similar question, and only after there were divergence and there were difference in the answers of Amanatullah Khan and his 3 associates, then only he was arrested. Also, there were raids carried out at the residence of Amanatullah Khan and his associates Kausar Imam Siddiqui and Hamid Ali in his locality, where CB officials by the close aides of Amanatullah Khan was done, and that's why these arrests have been taken place. Also, there is a massive embarrassment for the Aam Aadmi Party here, because a pamphlet and also a nameplate of Aam Aadmi Party where Kausar Imam Siddiqui is clearly establishing as the member of the Aam Aadmi Party is shown, that has also been seized from the Kausar Imam Siddiqui, one of the close associate of the Amanatullah Khan. So that puts all the narrative about Amanatullah Khan. When he was entering this office, he was saying that he is a, he has been, it's just a political witch hunt by the ACP on the directions of the BJP. But now, from the seizures of cash and firearms from his close aides residence, now all that put the Aam Aadmi Party and Amanatullah Khan in rough weather going ahead, because there were multiple complaints against Amanatullah Khan in the past as well, and that's why the ACV officials are saying there were multiple complaints, and now that they have seized those firearms and those illegal money that they could not account for, and also the difference in answer between Amanatullah Khan and his close aides, that's why he has been arrested. And
well, let Let me get in Nukul, who's also joining me from Amanatullah Khan's residence. Nukul, what is the latest that you're getting from his residence? Are the supporters of the Aam Aadmi Party MLA anywhere around the place? What are they saying?
Well, absolutely. And while the questioning of Aam Aadmi Party MLA Amanatullah Khan was going on, ACB also conducted raids at several locations. Right now, we are one of the locations from where we are reporting right now is the Imam Kausar Siddiqui's residence, alias Laddan. You can see behind me that the raids are still going on, and the police personnel have been deployed here in this particular area. This is in the O block, and the residence number is 54, where the raids have been going on right now. Earlier, we also observed that a raid that was conducted at the residence of Hamid Ali, who is one of the close associates of Amanatullah Khan. Although while he was taken away by the police, he denied all the involvement and association with Aam Aadmi Party MLA Amanatullah Khan. But he was also arrested by the police earlier. 3 hours raid had been conducted at the residence of Hamid Ali, who is believed to be one of the close associates of the Aam Aadmi Party MLA. While at the same time, the ACB have come out and said that the 24 lakh cash have been seized, and with 2 illegal weapons that have been received. But although Hamid Ali had stated that the weapon that the ACB had seized from his residence is legally acquired. Let me also show you once again that the scene of this particular spot where the raids have been going on. The police personnel still deployed here.
So some raids still carrying on at the houses of the aides of Amanatullah Khan, and the police still at that residence questioning these aides for the details on this. We'll keep following that story coming out of this big development, and going to the other big story that we've been following all day today. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we showed you how the Waqf Board in Tamil Nadu deceitfully usurped the lands of innocent villagers in 6 villages of Treachery. Tonight on the News Hour, we bring to you another tale of treachery of the Waqf Board. This time it's Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, you'd be shocked to know that not just 1 or 2 properties, but 123 prized properties in Lutyens, Delhi were gifted away by the Congress to the Waqf Board. Times Now special investigative team has uncovered a UPA-era secret note which gifted away these prized lands to Delhi to the Muslim body. It's not just a secret note alone. There is a gazette notification that followed this secret note by the cabinet. Remember yesterday, Times Now told you how Waqf has taken claim to 6 villages in Tamil Nadu, leaving the villagers shocked to see that their ancestral land was being grabbed. But they are not the only victims. Today, Times Now gets you another tale of treachery and betrayal. This 2,114 secret note that I hold in my hand, ladies and gentlemen, this note accessed by Times Now shows how the Manmohan Singh-led government in the UPA gifted away 123 Sarkari properties to the Delhi Waqf Board. Incidentally, this whip was given weeks before the 2014 general elections. The very next day, on 5th March 2014, this letter dated the 4th of March says, please refer to the telephonic request made by the Secretary, Ministry of Urban Development, requesting that the decision of the Cabinet for the denotification of 123 properties in Delhi under the central LNDO and DDA should be allowed to, the title should be allowed to revert to the Delhi Waqf Board or Mutawalis. That's what was said, and then these were the clauses that were added, that no compensation will be given, and cases pertaining to these properties filed by the Delhi Waqf Board against the government will be taken back. So even the cases that were going on where the government could have contested and said and won these cases in court and said that the Waqf Board has nothing to do with this land, they just handed over to the Waqf Board. And following that, there was a gazette notification that came out, and this gazette notification that I hold in my hand in 2014 was passed on the day the Election Commission announced the elections, and the same lines, the same notification, and mentioning properties in JP Hospital, in Turkman Gate, Ramlila Ground, Mansingh Road, where a big hotel is there. Hanuman Mandir, there were small mazars or masjids that were there. All of these were handed over, disputed properties were handed over to the Waqf Board just like that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just any land but prime land and prize land in the heart of Delhi, which was gifted away by the Congress to the Waqf. The secret note, accessed by Times Now, also reveals the properties in Connaught Place, Ashoka Road, Mathura Road, and several high-value VVIP enclaves in Lutyens, Delhi. These gifts given to the Waqf during the Manmohan Singh-led UPA era are worth hundreds and thousands of crores of rupees. Now, viewers, what we say here is with utmost responsibility. Times Now travelled to two of these properties in Motilal Nehru Marg and Tilak Bridge. Let's take a look at these ground reports.
Amid widespread criticism of the Waqf Board by the right-wing organization in the country, here we are at one of the 123 properties owned by Waqf Board, which were given to them by the central government. That has raised a controversy in the country. Here at the Motilal Nehru Marg, in the heart of the national capital, just minutes away from the parliamentary building in Delhi. We are at the Tilak Bridge in the national capital, and just left side of this Tilak Bridge is one of the 123 properties of Waqf Board that they are claiming to be theirs. In the affidavit filed, in a counter affidavit filed in the Delhi High Court in the response against a petition filed by a BJP leader Ashwini Upadhyay and also senior advocate Vishnu Jain. This is a Babasa mosque just nearby the Tilak Bridge in the national capital, and this is one of the property of the Waqf Board that they are claiming.
Yesterday, we showed you how the 1995 amendment of the Waqf Act gives the Waqf special powers. These powers have been misused not just in Tamil Nadu but also in Delhi. Let's listen in to what the DMK and the Congress have to say on these allegations.
தெரியும் கடந்த காலத்துல கையால எழுதப்பட்ட டாக்குமெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் வச்சிருந்தோம். இப்போ கனிமயம் ஆக்கும்போது அந்த காலகட்டத்தில் அந்த சிறிய தவறுகள் அங்கங்க நடந்திருக்கிறது தெரியுது. ஒரு சில இடத்துல ஆய்வு செய்யும்போது நல்லாவே தெரியுது. சில இடத்துல தவறுதலாவே வக்குக்கு சொந்தமான இடத்தையே விடுபட்டும் இருக்குது. அதெல்லாம் அந்த ஆய்வு செய்யும்போது தெரியுது. இந்த ஆய்வு செய்து ஒரு நல்ல தீர்வுக்கு வரும்.
People those who comment on Waqf should understand and read the Waqf Act. It clearly says that once a Waqf is always a Waqf. There is a judgment by the Supreme Court which says that once something is an Waqf, some land, that cannot be given to anyone till the D-Day, till the world ends. Only the government, for any construction of public utility, for instance, a highway is going somewhere or you're building a dam or something like that, there can be exception.
So the legitimate question we're asking on the Newshour tonight: should the special status for the Waqf be revoked? That's the question, and that's the debate. Waqf land secret note, that's the hashtag and the debate on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour first. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Sai Deepak, advocate, Vishnu Jain, advocate. Also joining me tonight, Ratan Sharda, author, Professor Atiq Ur Rehman, political analyst, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Danish Qureshi, political analyst. Sai Deepak, to you, I ask this first question. Isn't this a clear case of appeasement ahead of elections? And in this appeasement, you know, the government just hands over and gifts 123 disputed properties. Some of these cases, even if it were 1 or 2 out of these 123 cases that the government had won, even without going into the courts and litigate on this issue, they just handed it and gifted it to the Waqf Board. Now, isn't that a gift on the eve of election that reeks of some sort of a political consideration why this was done?
Navika ji, first of all, thanks to Time Now for having taken up this particular issue.
I think it's fairly obvious to submit that this was indeed a case of appeasement and a rank case of that. But I don't think it is surprising anymore for anyone today that the Congress has resorted to minority appeasement, and that to appeasement of one particular minority, which is no more a minority according to me, because OECD definitions clearly say that if you're above 10% of the population, you're not a minority anymore. One. Point number two, I think the statement of Mr. Syed Nasir Hussain, the Congress MP who spoke last, needs to be understood and taken forward. If according to him, once a Waqf property, always a Waqf property, if that is the principle that acts for eternity, the very same principle must equally attach itself. And Hindu law also recognizes that with respect to our places of worship and our lands. Once an endowment, always an endowment. Once a deity's property, always a deity's property. But somehow when it comes to the treatment of Hindu properties and Hindu places of worship, we end up getting the rough end of the stick or the short end of the stick. That seems to be the case. So I'm less on the question of how a particular political party conducted itself, which according to me is consistent with its track record of minority appeasement. But I'm more interested in understanding whether the legal framework in this country is fundamentally skewed against the, let's say, the indigenous faith systems of this particular country, and whether certain groups are being indulged at the expense of others, wherein a 1500-year-old Hindu institution whose longevity and existence is longer than the existence of Islam itself has to prove itself as to why the property belongs to it upon a show cause notice being issued by the Waqf community or the Waqf Board to a 1500-year-old temple. This is the predicament of this particular situation. This is the problematic aspect of this particular situation. It's not just a question of temple, which means, as Mr. Jain pointed out in the previous debate, it's possible for any piece of land to be taken over and by user claim that this belongs to the Waqf. In fact, I think in a previous debate, Mr. Jain even drew attention to Section 55 of the Waqf Act, where the kind of summary orders can be passed by approaching the magistrate with respect to the, let's say, the retrieval of the particular land in the name of Waqf. Those kind of remedies are not available to anyone else who suffers from illegal encroachment for the purposes of eviction of an illegal encroacher, which means a judicial remedy which is otherwise unavailable to any other member of the country, so to speak, with respect to retrieval of his own property, is available to one particular community depending on its own word that this property belongs to it. Look at the issue from the perspective of Places of Worship Act. Look at the issue from the perspective of retrieval of encroached properties. Look at the issue in terms of granting away and endowing away vast swathes of property, and that to prime property to one particular community. This, according to me, is legitimization of a silent invasion through a legal process, let's say, provision, so to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Atiq Ur Rehman, that is the question. The Waqf Act of 1995 gave sweeping powers to the Waqf Board. Not only that can the Waqf Board now go put its finger on any land and say that this belongs to them, and if you have to contest it, you have to either go to the person with whom you have a dispute to get it judged. I want to ask you, if I have a dispute with the Waqf Board itself, how can the Waqf Board sit in judgment of its own case in a dispute with me? So isn't this against the principles of justice, and therefore isn't this provision in the Act virtually against the fundamental right to justice?
Navika ji, I will address this discussion from 2 points. One is, if the Waqf running in the name of Islam under the provisions of the Quran, if it is having any dubious acquirement of any land property, it won't stand as far as the scrutiny of the Islamic law concerns. So if it is dubious, if it is usurping some powers, it is, making false claims on a land, it won't be, Islamic from any point of view. But since the entire Waqf Board, the entire Waqf officials, the CEO, the chairman of the Waqf Board are appointed by the government. So I do not understand if this is a canard spread by the Sangh elements. It is, giving what ample powers to them to pinpoint that Islam or the Muslims or the Waqf Board relating to a particular community, that is Islam, is responsible for it. Third point in this is, is it not possible for the government of the day to acquire back the land given to the Waqf? It is very much free to do it. There are, Navika ji, more than 24 enactments from 1800 to 2017. All enactments give ample powers to the
you are
government.
going on a track to say what the government can do now, and I'm sure those are issues that will come. I'm analyzing the legality or the upholding of the principle of justice in the Act of 1995. My friend, you're not commenting on that. Can there be an act that gives the powers, such sweeping powers, that the Waqf Board becomes the government which can go and order the DM to remove encroachments? Can the Waqf Board sit in judgment of a dispute that somebody else has with it? And then the redressal only happens in a High Court or a Supreme Court. For example, what do the hapless villagers of Treachery actually do? They can't even go to a district court. They will either come to the Waqf tribunal or they have to challenge it in a High Court or a Supreme Court. Do you realize how poor people are going to be able to do that? And is that an instrument that is being used to somehow annex land, grab land, and, poor illiterate people can be conned out of their own land holdings which they've held for generations? Why don't you answer that question?
Well then, Navika ji, if these principles of justice are being usurped, if they are being unjustified, who are the people responsible? The people responsible in the Waqf Board are the government. The complicity of the government, the state, or if it is falling in the concurrent list, both the central and the state.
So Vishnu Jain, Atiq Ur Rehman is economizing with his normally very, very, prudent sense of logic and understanding. But today he is economizing with that, and he has decided that we will not only blame this government, we will give a clean chit to the Congress party, because appeasement is what suits the Muslims. They will never consider the fact that such powers have not been given to any other minority in this country, including the Sikhs, the Jains, the Buddhists, the Parsis. Nobody gets this, but they have this exalted position, and everything is somebody else's fault. Vishnu Jain, 1 minute. Atiq Ur Rehman, now you hold on. I gave you two opportunities to take the issue head on and call a spade a spade. You didn't. Now let's hear what Vishnu Jain, as the legal mind in this matter, has to say.
See, Navika ji, first of all, I would like to take forward the submission which my friend Mr. Sai Deepak has just brought before you. The point is this, and kindly see the dichotomy and kindly see the arbitrariness which prevails through the provisions of the Waqf Act. At one point of time, the Waqf Board is given the power to declare anybody as encroacher of the property, and at section 55 they can direct the district magistrate to remove them from that property. At same point of time, if I am a Hindu and if my property has been encroached, if a temple land has been encroached, I have to fight a long legal battle in the civil court. And now kindly see, I want to welcome the suggestion of my friend, and that's precisely my point which Atiq Ur Rehman just said, that Waqf Board is a state government. It's having all the trappings of a state government. It's a state within the meaning of Article 12. So the point is this, that how can a religious denomination and how can members of a religious denomination be given a status of a state government? If you have to file a case against the Waqf Board, I want to tell it to Mr. Sai Deepak also, you have to give them notice under section 89 of the Waqf Act 1995, which is equivalent to section 80 of the CPC. So the point is this, that whether these kind of powers and these kind of provisions are for the members of any other community. And Navika ji, let me tell you, under the Places of Worship Act 1991, as per the interpretation given by Mr. Atiq Ur Rehman in various debates, the rights of the members of the Hindu community for judicial review has been taken away. And kindly see the Pandora box which is opened by the Waqf Act 1995, just after a span of 4 years, where the Waqf Board can declare any property as Waqf property, and against that legal and judicial remedy is open. So kindly see the dichotomy and the arbitrariness. I want to ask a question today on your channel, that why should me and Sai Deepak as taxpayer pay money for the survey of the Waqf under section 8? When the survey of the Waqf is conducted, the money of the survey and the expenses of the survey are borne by the state government, which is in clear violation of Article 27 of the Constitution of India. And Navika ji, all this dichotomy and arbitrariness doesn't end here. Let me tell you that Taj Mahal was declared as Waqf property by the Waqf Board in 2005. And when the Supreme Court asked them the question, the ASIs in appeal in the Supreme Court asked them a question, please show us the documents where Shah Jahan made it as a Waqf. They have no answer. And Navika ji, all these things doesn't end here. There is one more concept to add insult to injury, that is Waqf by user. So if you come to know that any property you are using from past 200 years, 300 years or 50 years, or if there is no deed of dedication, you will say it's a Waqf by user. And as my friend in the initial of the debates I was hearing, if once a Waqf, always a Waqf, then they say it's a Waqf for the times to come. So the point is this, that in Gyanvyapi what we are saying, or in Mathura what we are saying is that we are prior in time. We are worshipping in the property in question from time immemorial. But for us there is no concept of endowment by user. If we have to prove that when we came, we have to show historical records, we have to show various travel documents, and for them there is no such proof. They have to just say, Navika ji, that this is a Waqf property, I am using it from 500 years, 200 years or time immemorial, I am offering namaz here, and that's the end of the story. So my suggestion is this today on your channel and on your debate. I have certain provisions which must be amended immediately by the central government. The word person aggrieved, which has been very dubiously brought by the Congress government under section 6 of the Waqf Act, must be amended, because Navika ji, initially the word was person interested. In that the members of Hindu community doesn't fall in that category. That word was amended and it was made as person aggrieved by the Congress government in 2013, and now the members of the Hindu community also come in that purview. So section 6 must be amended, section 8 must be amended, section 40 entirety must be amended, section 54, 55 must be amended, section 83 where Waqf tribunal is set up must be amended, section 85 where the powers of the civil court are taken away must be amended, section 89 where the power of giving notice must be amended.
Well, I think it would be easier then to repeal the law.
Section 107 where limitation is provided must be amended.
Well, I think it would be easier to repeal the law than to amend so many sections. But Tehseen Poonawala, I really want to get into the intent. And the intent of the Congress party to bring a law in 1991 called the Places of Worship Act, and then the law which is the Waqf Act in 1995, with all of these sections that give sweeping powers as they were to the Waqf Board. I want to ask you, is this secular in India? And if it is secular, why is it not given to the other minorities? And my friend, can you answer one question? As the third largest landowner in this country after the railways and defense, Muslim फिर भी डरा हुआ है इस देश में?
Good evening, Navika. Lots of questions you've put across. I sincerely hope that I will be given the time Deepak Sai and my friend Vishnu Jain were given, because there are three questions you've put, and I would like to put something across to my very erudite friends Vishnu Jain Bhai and Deepak Sai. The Places of Worship Act 1991 and Waqf Act 1995. The intent behind the Waqf Act 1995 is to quote what L.K. Advani said on the floor of Parliament, where he said Muslims need to start getting money from their properties so that they can grow forward. So this was something that L.K. Advani endorsed in Parliament, as did Shah Nawaz Hussain, who was then the Minority Affairs Minister. And since the Waqf Act 1995, it's been 27 years. It's been 15 years of a BJP government which has gone to not only praise this act, which has gone to implement this act. Every single point that is being raised out here comes under a central government. So my limited point is, why doesn't Mr. Narendra Modi ji just repeal these acts? If they are so against the Constitution of India, why even go to court? Wait, somebody had gone to court earlier on. Ashwini Upadhyay ji went to the Supreme Court and he had to withdraw his petition because the central government, I cannot debate this way. I will leave the debate. I cannot debate this way because I never interrupt anybody, but it's very difficult when I make my points.
Don't play your victim card. Make your point. Nobody has interrupted you. Nobody has interrupted you, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize,
nobody is interrupting you. Please make your point.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, thank you. Thank you. The petition actually went to the Supreme Court. Ashwini Upadhyay went to the Supreme Court and he had to withdraw it there because the central government, whose central government? Mr. Modi's government took a stand in the Supreme Court that he is not a party interested. So he had to go to Delhi High Court, he had to withdraw his plea. Now, I agree, you may have problems with the Waqf Act, which Vishnu Bhai has, Deepak Sai has, and people others have. Please ask the central government to repeal it. Point number 2. Let's go to what is being said about Tamil Nadu, because continuously this lie is being spread. I will just take 30 seconds and I will end. In Tamil Nadu, apart from the lies that has continuously been spewed on for I don't know for what reason, the district collector of that village has said that yes, there is a formality of getting an NOC from Waqf. There is two government agencies that are dealing with it because these properties are listed in the central website of the Waqf, not in the state website, the central website. So people are allowed to sell the land, take the land, just take an NOC from Waqf. Nothing else is happening in Tamil Nadu, not even the Tamil Nadu BJP is raising it. Please fact check me on this.
Waqf Board say NOC number 1 and number 2. You are saying if somebody finds a problem with the act.
Because
my question,
two government bodies have a claim on it.
Tehseen Poonawala, can I ask the question?
Two government bodies, the state body.
Can I ask you a question? I asked you a simple and straightforward question, and the question is as follows. The question is, do you think that this act is loaded in favor of one community which calls itself a minority and is much larger than the other minorities in this country? Number 1. And number 2, isn't this act in violation of the principle of natural justice as is given as a fundamental right to each one of us as Indian citizens? Can there be a dispute between two people where one person involved in the dispute will actually hear the dispute and decide on it? Answer.
When it comes to principles of natural justice, I, Tehseen Poonawala, stand up for principles of natural justice. I think that particular part is violative. I'm saying this today, but when I said this in the farm laws, you, Navika, you defended the government in the farm laws. You defended the government, same provisions in the farm laws.
And therefore, Ratan Sharda, today we have proved that the Congress passed a law in a hurry on the eve of elections. In fact, on the day elections were announced, because they wanted to appease the minority community. They wanted it to be treated as a vote bank, and they went against the principles of natural justice. That is violation of every citizen's fundamental right under the Constitution. So should this act not be declared unconstitutional, and should the Congress not apologize to this country?
Navika, for last 2 days I have been regularly pressing for complete scrapping of the Waqf Board Act. There is an act which goes totally against justice, equality before justice. There is no equality before law as far as this law is concerned. So Hindus have to fight for every single yard of their temples every year, every month for centuries. But a Muslim board can put a finger somewhere as his mind, like a small child, it becomes his. Only in India, nowhere else will you find that invading religion. Who is this person trying to disturb me? I have not spoken for when anybody spoke. Please
go ahead. Please go ahead. We'll put down the faders.
Please don't do this.
Make your point.
Only in India we have a situation where an invading religion has more rights than the native religion. Hindus have only one nation, and that is where they are being discriminated against totally. So since 2 days, since the Tamil Nadu case in fact came up, I am shell-shocked that somebody can even try to claim a temple land which was built before Islam was born, and he's supposed to be right. What kind of law is this? And when you say, I would say this, we are living in a banana secularism. where there is no equality before law, where Hindus have no equal rights, when all these laws are made in favor of not just minority, some minorities. You will remember Manmohan Singh had said that minorities, bracket Muslims, have the first right on resources. Literally, he did this just before election. He hands over 123 prime property lands to the Waqf Board. And what is Waqf Board? Do you remember? There was a huge building in Mumbai by a very famous industrialist, which was built on a Waqf land. So they can do any kind of corruption. They will not be touched. They can play with people's property. We cannot touch. Who are these people to tell me that I should take NOC from Waqf Board? And Tehseen, by very word saying that BJP should scrap the law, BJP should amend the law, he has agreed that law is bad. So in 1995, somebody comes with a law trying to equate somebody or else. Am I tied down to some Advani ji or somebody else? I am not. I want this justice for Hindus, that equality before law. Let there be true.
My name is taken.
Put your hand down, Mr. Tehseen. You have spoken enough. Don't try to disturb. You said I am not disturbing. Why are you disturbing me? Say BJP has a mistake. I don't stand by BJP. Listen, I look at the interest of the majority communities. It has been reduced. Tehseen, you said you will not use. Tehseen, don't be so super serious. You don't want others to interrupt. You are interrupting. Just keep your mouth shut.
Okay, all right, gentlemen.
You please use your tones.
Gentlemen, we're not fighting over land here on this panel. We're talking about the law. We're talking about the law. You calm down, Tehseen. Calm down, Ratan Sharda ji. Just 1 minute.
Tell me this way. In what tone is he talking?
You are not a privileged
Tehseen, you didn't want anybody to interrupt you, so you should not have spoken in the middle. But you know.
I agree, and I kept quiet. I agree, and I asked you, may I respond? That's it, and I kept quiet. I agree, but you don't talk to me in this tone.
Tehseen, did I speak till you spoke? Did you not jump into the debate?
All right, gentlemen. Gentlemen, 1 minute. Let's not digress from the debate which is going well. Danish Qureshi ji, 1 minute, gentlemen. Danish Qureshi ji, जो law इस तरह के sweeping powers.
Tehseen wanted me to stop you. Stop me.
Okay, complete your point, Ratan ji. Complete your point.
No, please speak. Please.
You have a case. Then you have to keep on fighting for Gyan Vapi, and somebody can claim the entire day to be his. And Congress has a gall to say, this person from Congress has a gall to say that BJP has made the mistake. Who made the law? Who amended the law? That is the question. And that is wrong. Let it be any party. I don't give a damn. This law is totally against Hindus, against Indians. This has to go lock, stock and barrel. And if they want, let them do it. It is a secular country. It is not an Islamic country. It is not a country run by Sharia. So nobody can tell me once a waqf, always waqf property. Nobody has right to say this to me. I will not accept it under any condition.
Well, Danish Qureshi, how 1 minute, Tehseen, Danish hasn't spoken. Allow him a chance as well. Danish Qureshi ji, the issue here is that is this act loaded in favor of the Waqf or one minority community against the others? Simple question.
First of all, I want to reply to Mr. Sharda. What did Ratan Sharda ji said that I don't believe in once it's a waqf, it's a lifetime waqf. This has been stated by the Supreme Court of the country. Now the problem is that जब ज्ञान व्यापी में ये मामला होता है, तो they saying that my Muslims are not having faith in court and they are reacting against the court. And जब उन पे अपनी बात आती है, then they are saying that I am not having faith in this statement. Now second thing is that you are talking about the waqf. Remember one thing, the Waqf Board has a power to establish its own tribunal and to endorsed the matters in that tribunal. Now the thing is, the district magistrate of any district has said that to brought the NOC. What is wrong in that? He is following the law. If anybody wants to go and overrule that, go and say that NOC mat lijiye, aap aise hi sale kar dijiye. Will they consider legal that sale?
I have to seek NOC. You stake a claim on 1500-year-old temple and have to seek your NOC? My dear friend, where are you living? a temple which was made before Islam came into existence.
Mr. Sharda, this is the law, and district magistrate and the collector of the district can over that law. Try to understand what you are talking, Mr. Sharda.
Danish Qureshi ji, Danish Qureshi ji, please try to understand that there is a law called the CAA. That is the law. Will you actually follow that law?
Okay.
Same as the Waqf Act is a law, the CAA is also a law. Will you follow it? Yes or no?
So nobody has. Navika, nobody has stopped to go and oppose the against the Waqf law. Everyone has gone. Those who are having problem with CA, they have protested. They have done protest in that. Even we saw in farm law what happened in that. So Mr. Sharda or any other panelist who have objection against the law can go and object and go the protest. That is not a problem.
The matter is in court. Sai Deepak, isn't this selective following? Isn't this selective following of the law? Waqf Act should be followed by everybody, respected by everybody, but the CAA law, that is optional. That is optional because we are talking about a community which has an exalted position.
See, among the panelists who have spoken at least against this particular position, so far I think only Mr. Poonawala has made some sense. But even there, allow me to just make this point. Your entire position has been a question of principle, which is, should the law as it stands exist? That is the question that you have put. It is no answer to that question to say follow the law. अरे भाई, जब कानून पे ही सवाल उठ रहा है, आपका जवाब ये थोड़ी हो सकता है कि कानून का पालन होना चाहिए. जो अधिनियम है, ये संवैधानिक है या नहीं? Is it something that passes muster on the annals of Article 14? जब ये सवाल उठाया जा रहा है, it doesn't make a difference whether the BJP did it or not. I'm sorry to say this. In the previous panel discussion, we clearly said it is for the BJP to repeal the Places of Worship Act. Nobody is holding a candle here for the BJP. The BJP and the Congress debate can go on until the cows come home. I've said this several times on this particular discussion. The point we are making is this. Regardless of the party in power, it's a question of principle and it's a question of treatment of communities. Just one small correction, Navika ji. I don't care whether the Jews or let's say the Parsis of this country are extended this particular benefit. My point is, if this benefit is available, including the Hindus must get it, and if nobody is entitled for it, even the Muslims can't get it. Period. That's the position. So
Absolutely.
It's not a question
Danish
of whether the law is being followed.
Danish Qureshi and then Tehseen, I'm coming to you. Danish Qureshi.
May I respond to Deepak's side? Sure. Sure.
No problem. The problem with this, my friend panelist who was talking about that, the problem आपका ये है कि कानून पे सवाल उठ रहा है, ठीक है, बट सवाल ये है कि लॉ एग्जिस्ट कर रहा है, तो आपको अभी फॉलो करना ही पड़ेगा. आपने क्वेश्चन तो रेज कर दिया, लेकिन आप ये तो नहीं कह सकते कि क्वेश्चन रेज हो गया इसलिए आप उसको फॉलो नहीं करेंगे. और वक्फ बोर्ड की प्रॉपर्टी की जितनी लूट इस देश में हुई है और किसी की प्रॉपर्टी की इतनी लूट नहीं हुई है.
भाई साहब, सवाल ये नहीं है कि कोई एक्ट फॉलो करेगा या नहीं करेगा. सवाल ये है कि क्या ये एक्ट जो प्रिंसिपल ऑफ जस्टिस के खिलाफ है, क्या ये संवैधानिक है? Are you pretending not to understand the question or do you not want to understand the question?
करेगा नहीं करेगा?
भाई साहब, ये लॉ संवैधानिक है या नहीं?
योर आंसर इज नॉट राइट. आप क्या कह रही है, कानून फॉलो करेगा कि नहीं करेगा?
मैं आपसे दूसरा सवाल पूछ रही हूँ, आप अपना राग अलाप रहे हैं. मैं तहसीन पूनावाला, I come back to you because Danish Qureshi is not answering this. Atiq Ur Rehman is not answering it, and I'm only asking you this question: isn't this law violative of the principles of natural justice? Doesn't it take away my fundamental right from me and takes away the fundamental right of every citizen of India?
Just 10 minutes, Navika.
Navika, I actually agree with the arguments of please Qureshi ji. I actually agree with the arguments that Deepak Sai is making. Deepak Sai and Vishnu Jain ji very passionately believe that this particular law is ultra vires of our constitution, and that is their right to believe so. Now there are two ways this law can go. Either Parliament can repeal it, we are not going to Congress BJP, or the court can strike it down. This matter went to court in August this year. Now before Delhi High Court, it went to the Supreme Court. Whether Union government took a step understand, because this is a central government act, that listen, the petitioner has no locus standi, so ask him to withdraw it. Therefore, the central government is not interested in withdrawing this law. That's my first point. Now to the second point. Deepak Sai, when you say that this matter is for a particular committee, let me also draw your attention to the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006, which also envisages and gives forest dwellers the same protection. Now I take your point further. That could also be ultra vires of the constitution. You could also say, why do the tribals have this right in the forest? And therefore, all of this is a subject matter to be challenged before the legislature.
Are you comparing the downtrodden tribals to an entire community of Muslims? I mean, you know. Sai Deepak, I'm at a loss for words.
I'm comparing I'm sorry to say, his position is that Muslims must be compared with tribals whose lands are being taken. Please understand that the treatment which is given to tribals and forest dwellers is on the basis that they will be displaced if you undertake development. Their indigenous culture will be lost. What indigenous culture will be lost of Muslims on the basis of Waqf Board? I'm sorry to say, I don't understand this. Are you telling me that Muslims are to be given special treatment and the rest cannot be extended to the very same treatment with respect to encroachment, and that your position is the same as forest dwellers? Is that your position? आप अपने आप को जनजातियों के साथ कंपेयर करेंगे जिनके अपने ही प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं? Is that your position? Please tell me if that's your position. I'd like to understand.
So when you appreciate that the tribals of our country, I'll answer that. I'll explain that position. When you accept and you appreciate that the tribals of our country have a unique problem, so will you appreciate that the Muslims who claim to have Waqf property have a problem of encroachment, and therefore a law was made in that intent.
So Muslims also have unique problems, just like the tribals. But Sikhs don't have those problems. They do. Their properties don't have that problem. Jains don't have that problem.
I think it's ultra-wise. Strike it down.
Buddhists don't have that problem.
Please strike it down.
Vishnu Jain, either the intention is something that I can't understand, or the understanding of law is come down.
Navika ji, today on your channel, with utmost sense of humility, I want to ask Tehseen Bhai, please show me a provision. Please show me a provision which is in pari materia to section 40 of the Waqf Act 1995. Please show me a provision which is pari materia to section 8 of the Waqf Act. Please show me a provision which is pari materia to section 55 of the Waqf Act. Please show me a provision which is pari materia to section 101 of the Waqf Act. Please show me a provision which is pari materia to section 107 of the Waqf Act. If he shows me today, reads out a single provision, I will not even utter a word. Let him show me a single provision where a tribal of this country has the right to declare any property as a tribal property and a tribal tribunal has been constituted. Tehseen Poonawala will show me where in this country there is a tribal tribunal.
Respond, Tehseen.
Where there is exemption of limitation.
Of course no tribal. Of course.
Where there is survey of the properties of the tribal. Please show me. You can't compare something on a national television. Tehseen Bhai.
May I make my point? May I make my point? Of course I can make. Of course I can compare. If you allow me to speak, Vishnu Bhai, I'll explain it to you.
Tehseen Poonawala,
please read the provisions of the 2006 Tribal Act. Please read it.
There are no tribal tribunals. There are no pieces of land in forest where the tribals will say, "Ye mera hai," and if you want to take it away from me, then come to my court. Tell me where are such tribunals?
No, there is absolutely no tribal tribunal. I absolutely agree with it. I conceded that point to Vishnu Bhai. And therefore, I started my first provision that any particular aspects of this act that you all have a problem with, please make sure the court strike it down or the government.
So you admit on national television today that you were comparing not just apples to oranges. You were actually comparing, I don't know, birds with leopards and cheetahs. So you have no logic. You have no logic to even defend one of your arguments, Tehseen Poonawala, Atiq Ur Rehman. In the end, I want to come to you. I want to come to you, Atiq Ur Rehman, because normally you are a logical and a reasonable man. Atiq Ur Rehman, is this law loaded? And therefore, is it against the principles of equality and natural justice? Yes or no?
Well, out of all this discussion, Navika ji, what I see is you along with Sai Deepak and Vishnu Jain, you are trying to have a backdoor entry to get all the temples out of the government control. What I perceive from all these discussions is, because they were unable to get all these temples out of the government control so far. So this is another attempt creating a canard against the Waqf Board. And second important point is,
you have not understood that we want the temples out of the Waqf Board control, not necessarily the government control. That of course also is a desirable end to which we work. But Ratan Sharda is responding to you. Ratan Sharda, 30 seconds.
This entire try to defeat the debate. Nikuru tries to defeat the debate. Mr. You are saying that
1 minute, please. Only I can't hear everybody. Ratan Sharda is speaking. I'm lowering everybody's faders. I can't hear when people speak over each other. Yes, Ratan Sharda ji.
See, my basic contention from beginning was that for my temple control, I am fighting continuously with the government. I am going to court for every single temple issue, every law. So I will keep on fighting. While under the Waqf Board, you are superior to the courts, you are superior to the government, and you are superior to every community in the land. It is not just question of my temple being taken over by a Waqf property. I am also worried about my own property, my own home, like in case of Tamil Nadu. So where is the comparison? This entire act is totally against the equality before law. That is my contention. So whether my temple control act is a separate fight or whether Waqf Board, you are trying to mix up the two and trying to create a problem for the entire argument are two different arguments. It is my contention that my temples must be given back to me. My other contention is that Waqf for any other community has no right to usurp the land. You are saying Muslims are oppressed. Somebody comes from overseas. He takes away, breaks the lands. He breaks the temples. He takes away the land of the people.
Absolutely. Well, our families, there are some of our families who have come from what is today called Pakistan. They haven't been able to get any of their properties there. But when they come here, they find that centuries old, even invaders have properties in India to their name. And we as Indians are still refugees in our own country. Is this fair? The question is not about one religion versus another. The question is only about the principles of justice. Is justice being done in this act, or does the government need to repeal this act ASAP? That's the question we're asking on Times Now tonight. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on this debate.